This video contains spoilers for season 1 of Winx Club. So if you for some reason haven't watched season 1 and still want to watch it without being spoiled, you might have to skip this one. Hello YouTube and welcome to another video. So like a month ago I made a video on the new official Winx Club art book, which I also have here. And the reason I bring this up is that in that video I talked about wanting to talk about Bloom originally having been the Fairy of Wind, if people are interested in that, and people did seem to be interested in that, so this is that video. Now in this video I'm gonna cover the original theory, and then I'm gonna cover my thoughts on it, and then I'm gonna talk about my take on the theory, or my theory based on that theory. So I have my own theory, but originally I'm gonna cover the original theory and then talk about it. I'm not here to diss the original theory. I don't want to say that it's like rubbish or anything, but I have spent a lot of time thinking about that theory, and I have my own theory based on the evidence that they provide. So the theory originally comes from Reddit. It comes from the Reddit user celestideal_long253. I'm gonna link their theory down below. The original post is 4 years old. It's from r/winxclub, and I'm gonna link it below just so you can read the whole theory, and if you want to, and just to give credit to them as well, because they are the original creator of that theory. I'm not the first Winx YouTuber to cover this theory, but I do have my own take on it. So I wanted to talk about it, and also I haven't seen a whole video dedicated to that theory, so I just wanted to talk about it. I'm gonna read the original post. I'm gonna edit it slightly grammatically for my own reading convenience. So just read the original theory in the link below if you want to read it just as is. But I'm basically gonna read the whole theory, but I'm gonna edit it just slightly. Everyone knows Bloom as the fairy of the dragon flame, and her powers are mainly fire-based, but that may not always have been the case. Bloom may have had a different power source in the prototype series stages known as Magical Bloom, the old name of the show. Bloom may have been the fairy of the wind at one point. I wanted to share my theory today. There's a lot of evidence for this. The first one is the old stock art of Bloom above. It's a mysterious stock art, and it depicts Bloom surrounded by a kind of tornado, a kind of wind. I randomly found this on Google someday, and I don't know the origin. It doesn't look like fire to me. And on an old Bloom 2004 Magic Winx doll, it states on the back of the box that I am Bloom, I am the fairy of the wind. My powers grow with wind just like fire. It also states this on the old Mattel website in the description of this doll. Considering merchandise often gets graded before the release of the show, this would not be a coincidence. Most of Bloom's outfits are blue, which is a color associated with sky. And yes, blue can be a color of extreme dangerous fires, but in the show, fire has always been depicted as orange or red. Never in Winx has fire been portrayed as blue. So I don't think Bloom's signature blue means fire. In her old Magical Bloom concept, she even wears a lot of white, which is a color of clouds. Her wings still have a cloud-like shape. In the 2004 Winx Club PC game, Bloom has a magical attack called Piercing Wind. And in other old Winx games, she has attacks that cause rain. Why is this? Bloom's boyfriend is called Sky, which may have something to do with Bloom originally being the fairy of wind. Every couple in Winx Club has symbolism, like Aisha and Nyx represent life and death. But Bloom and Sky mean nothing, but may have a hidden symbolism in the days when Bloom was the fairy of wind, because the wind and sky go together. Bloom is the wind, sky is the air. Old Winx signatures back in the early days of season 1 have Bloom's signature depicting a symbol with shooting stars, which may represent a kind of lighting or falling stars in the sky. So this is the original theory. I'm also gonna show you the stock art that they talk about. The quality is very low, but that's just how really old stock art is. There's also another Reddit post by Ever After Rebel, and they elaborate on Bloom's original fairy type theory on their own, and their elaboration also talks about how Bloom might have been a celestial fairy instead. I'm not gonna read that entire theory, but I'm gonna leave it in the comments below just just so you can check it out. But in their theory, they also have screenshots that Celes Ideal mentioned of Bloom's fairy attacks being piercing wind. I'm gonna just share some of my thoughts on the original theory. Now, the thing that actually inspired this video for me was the art in the Art of Wings Club book. And there is a page here where they show Bloom's like power source, but it does look like wind to me here as well, or like water. I think it looks more like water. I think in the stock art as well, this could be wind, this could be water, this could be smoke. Obviously, they're interpreting it as wind because of the Mattel box. But I think if you just look at the artwork, it could be wind, it could be smoke, it could be water, it could be a lot of things based on that stock art. And I think that actually supports my take on the theory a little bit, which I'm going to talk about in a moment as well. But I just want to talk about Bloom's color scheme being blue. I think Bloom's color scheme was always supposed to be blue, even if we think that she was originally supposed to be the Fairy of Fire. Because if you put Bloom in red, Bloom already has red hair. It's very fiery. And if you put her in red, she starts to look a little bit like a devil. She starts to look a little bit villainish. Red can be a very angry color, especially when associated with fire, and she is the main character, and I think she would look like a little bit too devilish and a little bit too angry. So I think giving her a blue outfit, even if she was originally supposed to be the Fairy of the Dragon Flame from the start, completely makes sense. Because we have seen from Fate what happens when you put Bloom in red, and it is not a good look. Regarding the sky theory, it's interesting. I don't know. Do all the Wings couples have symbolism? I haven't really noticed it. Like they bring out Aisha and Nex, but I wish they brought up other like examples as well. I don't think all the other couples have symbolism like that. Am I missing something? Is there like name symbolism in all the other couples? Let me know down below if there is. Like I've never like Stella means star, I think, but I don't think Brandon means anything. Like, is there symbolism in the other couples' names? I don't know. So one of the main counter arguments to this theory is that Ichinios Raffi himself has repeatedly said that Bloom was always supposed to be the Fairy of the Dragonflame, that from the start this was one thing that was certain, that Bloom was supposed to be the Fairy of the Fire, and I've seen other Wings Club YouTubers counter-argument this by saying, well, he's obviously lying. And he could be lying, but I don't like that explanation. And I have a theory that I think marries the two perfectly, and that doesn't make Ichinios Raffi a liar, and I also don't see why he would lie about that. And also, Bloom's original concept art, her hair still looks very fiery. Like, her hair is where the fire is at, like. And personally, I don't see Bloom's original wings looking like clouds. I just don't. I think they look very similar to what her wings end up looking like. So personally, that part I don't really see. Here's my interpretation of that theory. This is pretty much just a theory. I have very little evidence to back it up. Season 1, as you guys know, loves their plot twists. We have the Sky Brandon plot twist. We have the Sky is engaged plot twist, which you can say is the same plot twist. We have Bloom is adopted plot twist. We have Bloom is a princess plot twist. We have Daphne is Bloom's sister plot twist. We have plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. And my take on the theory is that season 1 was originally supposed to have another plot twist, and that plot twist was supposed to be that Bloom is the Fairy of the Dragonflame, when we originally thought she was the Fairy of Wind. In the beginning of the series, Bloom's fire is very unstable, and not in a messed up way as it is in Fate. Bloom can't really control her powers. She can't really do a whole lot when she isn't put under immense pressure. So, and because all of the other fairies are sort of already in a box, they already know the source of their powers, it would make sense for Bloom to want to know what the source of her powers is. So maybe her friends are helping her finding it out. Maybe some of the teachers who aren't actively keeping stuff from her, like Faragonda, or maybe Faragonda wasn't actively keeping stuff from her. Maybe they're helping her discover the source of her powers, but Bloom still really isn't very strong. So all she can do is like really warm winds, or these really warm windy effects. And everyone's like, okay, well, I guess she's the fairy of wind. It makes sense, right? Like this wind is pretty hot, but she's not really that good with her powers yet. Yeah, like a really hot wind, but sure. She'll get the hang of it. She'll manage to do colder winds eventually. Because no one's gonna assume immediately that she has the strongest power in the universe. Because the people in the series doesn't know that she's the main character. So maybe everyone thinks Bloom is the fairy of the wind. And the one thing I'm also basing this on is actually the Mattel box. You can go to the Mattel service website, which I'm also gonna link down below. And it is a wonderful website because you can find out so much cool stuff about Winx Club. You can find Aisha's original name Gladys there, for instance. You can really see a lot of the behind the scenes stuff with this site because it has the most original texts. And indeed, in here, it does still say that Bloom is the fairy of wind. So, was it a mistake? It honestly could have been a mistake on Mattel's part. Mattel is the company that just recently released a bunch of dolls that had a link to adult websites. So, there could have been a mistake. Someone could have put Fairy of Wind in as a placeholder, and it could have been a mistake. But that is a really boring interpretation of what happened. So let's say that Mattel's Fairy of the Wind thing wasn't a mistake, that they put it there deliberately, that it had a reason. Now, do you guys know the first and I think pretty much the only specialist doll Mattel has ever made? It's the doll of Sky, the guy we all know as Sky, but it's not listed as Sky. It was never sold as Sky, it was sold as Brandon. And they deliberately sold it as Brandon because calling him Sky during season 1 would have been a major spoiler. It would have spoiled the plot twist for anyone who hadn't seen the show yet. So obviously they had to put it on the box that he's called Brandon instead of Sky, because at this point in the series he's called Brandon, and calling him Sky is a major spoiler, so they're not gonna do that. So I proposed that they did the same with Bloom and had her be the fairy of wind. And she was never supposed to stay the fairy of the wind. She was always supposed to be the fairy of Dragonflame, just like Ignea Starfy said, but we were all supposed to think for a time, and Bloom herself was supposed to think for a time, that she is a fairy of the wind. That in the beginning of season 1, there may have been a time where people may have thought that she was the fairy of the wind. And she wasn't actually never supposed to be that. She was always supposed to be the fairy of the Dragonflame, but she and her friends and maybe her teachers thought that she was the fairy of the wind. And I think this works with the stock art, because in the stock art it doesn't look super windy. It looks almost smoky more than windy. But it's right, it doesn't also look like the dragon flame. It could also be water. It looks really mysterious. You're not exactly sure what it is, but it could be wind. It would be reasonable to assume it's wind. And maybe that was deliberate. Maybe that was always supposed to be the plot twist. Yeah, it seems to make sense. And yeah, her outfit is blue. So yeah, everyone's like, yeah, blue. Her outfit is blue. Yeah, it makes sense. She is the fairy of wind, totally. And then, plot twist. It's not her outfit, it's her hair that reveals, like, her source of power. That sort of has a hint of that fire. Because she always had the same hair, even in Magical Bloom. Also, the old computer games having both the fire and wind attacks actually makes sense in the case of my theory as well, because in that case, Bloom would have originally had like attacks that she thought that were wind-based, but were actually just a sort of weaker, hot air version of her fire, and then later she would have fire attacks because later she knew that she was a fire fairy. So yeah, I think Bloom was never supposed to be the fairy of wind, but rather her not being the fairy of the wind was supposed to be a major plot twist. So yeah, that's my take on the theory. I'm not saying it's correct at all. It's literally just a theory, and I'm basing it on the fact that Mattel has historically not spoiled stuff on their packaging. Because they clearly very deliberately made Brandon Brandon and not Sky. I think they would have already known by this point that Sky is later gonna be Sky. But they specifically didn't want to spoil her from the series. What do you guys think? Do you agree with my theory? Do you think that's like possible? I think Bloom's hairstyle is very fiery, and I think her having blue clothes just fits her and looks nice with the red. So I don't think it's something that's just left over from a time when she was a wind fairy. But maybe she herself thought that she was a wind fairy at one point. I make Wings Club content semi-regularly, so if you're interested in that, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. And of course, let me know in the comments all of your thoughts, and I will definitely read all of your comments. Leave a like if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!